Get ready for a heartwarming and hilarious modern Cinderella story set in the dazzling lights of New York City. Charlotte Brooks, a small-town chef with a knack for comfort food, steps into a glamorous Manhattan matchmaking event, feeling like a fish out of water. When she's paired with Nathan Carter, a reserve tech heir rumored to be frail, sparks fly amidst spilled wine, sneaky grilled cheese sandwiches, and a whirlwind of misunderstandings. The late summer sun dipped below the Manhattan skyline, casting a golden glow over the glass towers of Midtown. Charlotte Brooks stood at the corner of Fifth Avenue, clutching a worn leather satchel, her sneakers scuffing against the sidewalk as she stared up at the towering facade of the Grand Meridian Hotel. The building loomed like a monolith of wealth, its marble entrance flanked by doormen in crisp uniforms and a red carpet that screamed exclusivity. Charlotte's stomach churned not from hunger, though she hadn't eaten since breakfast, but from the sheer absurdity of being here. A matchmaking event. In a place like this? She was a small-town chef from Auburn, New York, more at home in a diner kitchen than in a world of chandeliers and champagne flutes. "Charlotte, stop gawking. You're gonna make us late," came a voice, sharp but playful, from behind her. Emma Hayes, her best friend and self-proclaimed social media influencer, strutted up in a sleek black dress, her heels clicking with purpose. Emma's blonde hair was swept into a flawless updo, and her makeup was camera-ready. As always, she looped an arm through Charlotte's, tugging her toward the entrance. "This is your chance to meet someone amazing, or at least get a free meal out of it." Charlotte adjusted the strap of her satchel, her denim jacket feeling woefully out of place against Emma's glamour. "I don't belong here, Em. This is for rich people with trust funds, not for someone who burns toast half the time." She glanced at the invitation on her phone. A digital ticket to Elite Connections, a night of destiny, a high-end matchmaking event promising to pair New York's most eligible singles. Emma had scored the tickets through a brand deal, insisting, "Charlotte, tag along to live a little. Burnt toast is your charm," Emma teased, steering her through the revolving doors. The lobby hit Charlotte like a wave-polished marble floors, a crystal chandelier the size of a small car, and the faint hum of classical music. Men in tailored suits and women in designer dresses milled about, their laughter tinkling like the clink of expensive glassware. Charlotte's heart sank. She'd worn her best outfit, a simple green dress she'd found on clearance, and her favorite denim jacket, but she still felt like a kid, playing dress-up at the check-in desk. A woman in a severe blazer scanned their invitations with a handheld device. "Names?" she asked, her tone clipped. "Emma Hayes and Charlotte Brooks," Emma said, flashing a megawatt smile. The woman's eyes flicked over Charlotte, lingering on her satchel. "No personal items allowed inside. You'll need to check that bag." Charlotte's grip tightened. "What? It's just my stuff wallet, keys, a sandwich in case I get hungry." She'd packed a turkey and cheddar on rye, wrapped in foil, a habit from long shifts at the diner, where snacks were her lifeline. The woman's lips pursed. "No outside food. Hand it over." Emma nudged her. "Just give it up, Char. They've got a 5-course meal in there." Reluctantly, Charlotte unzipped her satchel and handed over the foil-wrapped sandwich. The woman took it with 2 fingers, as if it were radioactive, and dropped it into a bin behind the desk. "Proceed to the ballroom," she said, gesturing toward an escalator. Charlotte muttered under her breath. 5 courses better be worth it. The ballroom was a vision of opulence, gold-trimmed walls, tables draped in white linen, and waiters weaving through the crowd with trays of champagne. A massive digital screen displayed the event's logo, a heart entwined with a laurel wreath, and soft jazz played from hidden speakers. Charlotte scanned the room, spotting men in tuxedos and women in gowns that probably cost more than her monthly rent. She tugged at her dress, suddenly aware of a loose thread at the hem. "Relax," Emma whispered, grabbing 2 flutes of champagne from a passing waiter. "You're here to have fun. Maybe you'll meet a hot CEO or a brooding artist." Charlotte took a sip, the bubbles tickling her nose. "Or I'll spill this on someone's Prada and get kicked out." As they moved deeper into the room, a tall woman in a crimson dress approached, her presence commanding attention. Her name tag read Claire Donovan, CEO, Donovan Ventures. She extended a hand to Emma, ignoring Charlotte. "You're Emma Hayes, right? I follow your content. Love your aesthetic." Emma beamed. "Thanks. This is my friend Charlotte. She's a chef, makes the best comfort food you'll ever taste." Claire's gaze slid to Charlotte, appraising her like a piece of furniture. "Charming. Small-town vibe, I assume." Her tone was polite but edged with condescension. Charlotte bristled but forced a smile. "Yeah, Auburn. We're big on apple pie and not much else." Claire's laugh was sharp, like breaking glass. "Cute. Well, enjoy the event. I'm here too. Network, but who knows? Maybe I'll find a match." She glided off, already scanning the room for her next target. "Ugh, she's intense," Charlotte muttered. "Forget her," Emma said, nudging her toward a table with name cards. "Let's find our seats. The matches are about to start." Charlotte's name card placed her at table 7, and as she sat, she noticed a man already there, staring at his phone with a furrowed brow. His name tag read Nathan Carter, Carter Tweck. He was lean, with dark hair, swept back, and a pale complexion that made him look almost fragile. His suit was impeccably tailored, but his tie was slightly askew, and he clutched a glass of water, like it was a lifeline. Charlotte's first thought was that he looked tired, maybe even sick. She'd heard whispers from other guests about a heir with health issues, and her mind jumped to conclusions. "Hey," she said, sliding into the chair across from him. "I'm Charlotte. You're Nathan, right?" He looked up startled, his hazel eyes meeting hers. "Yeah, hi." His voice was soft but steady, and he set his phone down. "First time at one of these." "First and probably last," Charlotte said, grinning. "I'm only here because my friend dragged me." "Ya family pressure?" Nathan admitted, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "They think I need to socialize more." Charlotte laughed. "Socialize? This feels more like a job interview." With mood lighting, before Nathan could respond, a chime rang out, and the event's host, a woman in a glittering gown, took the stage. "Welcome to Elite Connections," she announced. "Tonight, you'll meet your matches in a series of curated conversations. Follow our rules. No phones, no personal items, and keep the conversation light. Your first match begins now." Charlotte glanced at Nathan, who looked as uncomfortable as she felt. "So," she said, leaning forward, "what's your deal? You don't seem thrilled to be here." Nathan's smile grew slightly. "I'm not big on crowds or small talk, but I'm guessing you've got a story. You don't look like the usual Manhattan type." She raised an eyebrow. "Is that a compliment or a dig?" "Definitely a compliment," he said quickly, his eyes crinkling. "You seem real." Charlotte felt a flush creep up her cheeks. "Well, I'm a chef. I spend my days making burgers and pies, not sipping martinis in penthouses. What about you?" "Carter Tech sounds fancy." He shrugged, his expression guarded. "It's my family's company. I'm just part of it." Before she could press further, a waiter approached, setting down a plate of Zabushastini, artfully arranged bites that looked more like sculptures than food. Charlotte poked at one with her fork. "This is supposed to fill me up. I should have kept my sandwich." Nathan chuckled, a low, warm sound. "You brought a sandwich to this?" "Hey, I get hangry," she said, popping the bite into her mouth. It was some kind of smoked salmon thing, too fishy for her taste. "You're not eating." "Stomach issues," he said, waving a hand. "I stick to water for now." The rumors about his health flashed through her mind again, and she felt a pang of sympathy. Poor guy probably wouldn't last the night without keeling over. "You sure you're okay?" she asked, then winced at her bluntness. He raised an eyebrow. "I'm fine. Why? You worried about me already?" She laughed, trying to cover her embarrassment. "Just making sure I don't have to call 911 before dessert." As they talked, Charlotte noticed other guests stealing glances at Nathan, whispering behind their hands. She caught snippets. Heir, not looking good, and her heart sank. Maybe he was sicker than he let on. She sent a quick text to Emma under the table. "This guy looks like he's one breeze away from collapsing. Hope I'm out of here soon." Unbeknownst to her, a man at the next table, Nathan's colleague, a smug guy named Ethan, caught a glimpse of her screen. He smirked, tucking the information away for later. Charlotte, oblivious, kept chatting with Nathan, who seemed to relax with every passing minute, his dry humor matching her own. By the time the chime rang again, signaling the end of the first match, Charlotte felt a flicker of curiosity about Nathan. He wasn't what she'd expected, not arrogant, not flashy, but those whispers about his health lingered, making her wonder how much time he really had. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom shimmered under the soft glow of chandeliers, their light refracting off polished silverware and crystal glassware on the round tables. The air was thick with the scent of truffle oil and jasmine perfume, mingling with the low hum of jazz from a live quartet tucked in the corner. Charlotte Brooks sat at table 7, her green dress slightly wrinkled from nervous fidgeting, her denim jacket draped over the back of her chair. Across from her, Nathan Carter sipped his water, his pale fingers wrapped tightly around the glass as if it anchored him to the moment. The first round of Elite Connections blind dates had officially begun, and Charlotte was already regretting letting Emma drag her into this. The table was set with meticulous precision white linen napkins folded into swans, a centerpiece of orchids that probably cost more than her monthly grocery budget, and a menu card promising a 5-course meal she could barely pronounce. Charlotte glanced at Nathan, who was studying the menu with a faint frown, his dark hair falling slightly over his forehead. He looked out of place, too. Despite his tailored suit, his tie was still crooked, and she resisted the urge to reach over and fix it. "So," Charlotte said, breaking the silence, "you're stuck with me for this round. What's the worst date you've ever been on?" "Gotta set the bar low so I don't disappoint." Nathan's lips twitched, a hint of a smile breaking through his guarded expression. "Honest approach. I like it." He leaned back, setting the menu down. "Worst date? Probably the one where my date spent the entire time pitching me her STARTUP. Felt like I was on Shark Tank." Charlotte laughed, the sound louder than she intended, drawing a few glances from nearby tables. "Okay, that's rough. Mine was this guy who took me to a diner fine by me. I love diners, but he spent 2 hours explaining why ketchup is a crime against food. I mean, come on, ketchup's a classic. Nathan's smile grew, his hazel eyes catching the light. Ketchup's fine, but I'm more of a mustard guy. Mustard? Charlotte raised an eyebrow, mock horrified. We're gonna have problems, Nathan Carter. He chuckled, a low, warm sound that surprised her. For someone who looked like he might faint at any moment, he had a disarming ease when he let his guard down. The whispers she'd overheard about his health Carter heir, always sick, probably won't last long lingered in her mind though, making her tone soften. You sure you're okay with just water? They've got some fancy stuff on this menu. I can ask for something mild if your stomach's acting up. Nathan's expression flickered, a mix of amusement and something unreadable. I'm good, thanks. Just pacing myself. You don't need to play nurse. Wasn't trying to, she said quickly, her cheeks flushing. Just, making sure you don't pass out before the main course. He raised an eyebrow, leaning forward slightly. You're really hung up on that, aren't you? I'm not that fragile. Before she could respond, a waiter appeared, setting down the first course. A tiny quenelle of beetroot mousse topped with a single edible flower. Charlotte stared at it, then at Nathan. This is food. Looks like something you'd find in a fairy garden. Nathan picked up his fork, poking at the mousse skeptically. Yeah, I'm not convinced this qualifies as a meal either. He hesitated, then set the fork down. You're a chef, right? What would you make instead of this? Charlotte's eyes lit up, her discomfort easing as she leaned into her favorite topic. Oh, easy. A proper burger juicy patty, brioche bun, sharp cheddar, maybe some caramelized onions. None of this dollhouse food, she gestured at the plate. Back in Auburn, I'd whip up stuff like that at the diner. People drove from 3 towns over for my pulled pork sliders. Nathan's gaze softened, intrigued. Sounds like you love what you do. It's the best, she said, her voice warm with passion. Food's honest, You make something good. People smile. No pretense. Not like she waved a hand at the room. He nodded, his expression thoughtful. I get that. There's not much honesty in my world. Too many people playing angles. Charlotte tilted her head, curious. Your world. Cartotech, right. Sounds like a big deal. What do you do there? Nathan's smile faded slightly, his fingers tightening around his glass. Officially, I'm in strategy. Unofficially, I'm the guy they drag out for photo ops to keep the board happy. He paused, then added, my family's complicated. She sensed the weight behind his words, but didn't push. Instead, she grinned. Well, if you ever need a break from complicated, come to Auburn. I'll make you a burger that'll fix your soul. He laughed, a genuine sound that made her stomach flutter unexpectedly. I'll hold you to that. Their conversation was interrupted by Emma, who swooped in from a nearby table, her black dress shimmering under the lights. Char, how's it going? She whispered, leaning close. This guy's cute, but he looks like he needs a nap. You good? Charlotte shot her a look. I'm fine. Go charm your own date. Emma winked, then glanced at Nathan. Nice to meet you, Nathan. Don't let her scare you off with her food obsession. She sauntered back to her table, leaving Charlotte mortified. She's a lot, Charlotte said, rubbing her neck. Sorry about that. She's got energy, Nathan said, amused. You two known each other long. Since high school, Charlotte said. She's the one who got me into this mess. Said I need to expand my horizons. I think she just wanted someone to suffer with her. Nathan smirked. Sounds like my brother. He's the one who pushed me to come tonight. Thinks I need to get out more. Charlotte was about to ask about his brother when a shadow fell over the table. Claire Donovan, the CEO from earlier, stood there, her crimson dress clinging to her like a second skin. Nathan Carter, she said, her voice smooth as silk. I didn't expect to see you here. I'm Claire Donovan. We met at the tech summit last year. Nathan's posture stiffened slightly, but he nodded politely. Right? Good to see you, Claire. Claire's smile was calculated, her eyes flicking to Charlotte briefly before dismissing her. I hear Cartotech's working on something big. Maybe we could talk later. Donovan Ventures is always looking for strategic partnerships. Her tone suggested more than business, and Charlotte felt a prickle of irritation. Sure, Nathan, said his voice neutral. I'll be around. Claire lingered a moment longer, then glided away, her heels clicking like a metronome. Charlotte rolled her eyes. She's fishing for something. You know her. Barely, Nathan said, relaxing again. She's all about the deal. Probably sees me as a stepping stone. Charlotte snorted. Well, she's barking up the wrong tree. You don't seem like the deal type. He raised an eyebrow, amused. Oh, what type am I? She hesitated, then grinned. The I'd rather be anywhere but here type, same as me. He laughed, and for a moment, the tension between them eased. But as the second course arrived, a microscopic portion of seared scallop, Charlotte's phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced around, making sure no organizers were watching, and pulled it out to text Emma. This guy's nice, but he looks half dead. Hope this wraps up soon so I can get some real food. She hit send, unaware that Ethan, Nathan's colleague, at the next table, had been watching her. Ethan, a slick guy in a flashy suit, smirked as he caught a glimpse of her screen. He leaned over to his date, whispering, looks like Carter's match isn't impressed. This'll be fun to tell the team. Charlotte tucked her phone away, oblivious, and turned back to Nathan. Okay, serious question. If you could eat anything right now, no stomach issues, what would it be? Nathan thought for a moment, his expression softening. My mom's lasagna, haven't had it in years. She used to make it every Sunday when I was a kid. Charlotte's heart twinged at the nostalgia in his voice. That's sweet. My mom's thing was apple pie. I'd give anything for a slice. Right now, they traded stories about their favorite foods, the conversation flowing easily despite the formal setting. Charlotte found herself relaxing, charmed by Nathan's dry wit and the way his eyes lit up when he talked about something real, but the whispers from other tables kept nagging at her. Heir. Always in and out of hospitals, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. Was he really okay, or was he putting on a front? As the chime rang, signaling the end of the first blind date, Charlotte felt a strange mix of relief and disappointment. Nathan stood, offering a small smile. Not a bad start, Charlotte Brooks. Maybe I'll see you in the next round. She grinned, standing too. Only if they start serving real food. Take care, Nathan. As he walked away, Charlotte pulled out her phone again, texting Emma. Okay, he's kinda cool, but I'm still betting he faints before dessert. Ethan, watching from his table, smirked wider, already planning how to use her words against her. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom buzzed with the clink of cutlery and the murmur of polished conversation, the jazz quartet weaving a sultry melody through the air. Charlotte Brooks sat at table 7, her fingers drumming lightly on the linen tablecloth, her green dress catching the warm glow of the chandeliers above. The second course of Elite Connections matchmaking eventa, minuscule portion of seared scallop drizzled with some unpronounceable sauce had come and gone, leaving her stomach grumbling for something substantial. Across the room, Nathan Carter had moved to another table for the next round of blind dates. His lean frame and slightly crooked ties still lingering in her mind, he'd been surprisingly easy to talk to, his dry humor cutting through the stuffy atmosphere, but those whispers about his health Heir always sick kept her from getting too attached. Poor guy probably wouldn't make it through the night without a nap, she thought. Charlotte's new match, a hedge fund bro named Trevor with a Rolex that screamed "look at me," was mid-monologue about his yacht in the Hamptons. She nodded, politely, her eyes glazing over, until a commotion at the center of the room snapped her attention away. The event's host, a woman in a glittering gown, was introducing a surprise segment, a panel discussion featuring select participants to showcase their brilliance. Charlotte stifled a groan. Great. More posturing from rich people. Ladies and gentlemen, the host announced, her voice amplified by a sleek microphone. Please welcome our first panelist, Nathan Carter of Carter Tech, to discuss innovation in the tech industry. Charlotte's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Nathan, the guy who looked like a strong breeze, could knock him over. She craned her neck to see him rise from his table, adjusting his tie as he made his way to the stage. The crowd murmured, some with curiosity, others with barely concealed skepticism. Charlotte caught snippets. Carter's the weak link. Only here because of his last name, and her stomach twisted. She didn't know Nathan well, but the dismissal in their tones grated on her. Nathan took his seat at the panel table, flanked by two other participants, Claire Donovan, the crimson-dressed CEO who'd been circling him earlier, and a man in a pinstripe suit who introduced himself as a venture capitalist. The moderator, a tech journalist with a sharp bob and sharper questions, wasted no time. Mr. Carter, she began, Carter Tech's recent pivot to sustainable AI has raised eyebrows. Some say it's a risky move for a company known for enterprise software. Why take the gamble? Charlotte expected Nathan to fumble. He'd been so reserved at their table, deflecting questions about his work with vague answers. But as he leaned into the microphone, his posture shifted, shoulders squared, eyes steady. It's not a gamble if you see the bigger picture, he said, his voice calm but commanding. AI's growth is exponential, but so is its environmental cost. Data centers consume enough energy to power small countries. If we don't innovate sustainably now, we're just kicking the problem down the road. The room hushed, the skepticism giving way to intrigue. Charlotte leaned forward, her elbows on the table, ignoring Trevor's droning about his stock portfolio. Nathan went on, outlining Carter Tech's plan to integrate renewable energy into AI infrastructure, citing studies and projections with a precision that made the venture capitalist nod approvingly. Claire, however, interjected, her smile sharp. Bold vision, Nathan, but isn't Carter Tech's board pushing back? I hear your family prefers safer bets. Nathan didn't flinch. Some resistance is expected, he said evenly. Change always scares people who've built empires on the status quo, but empires fall if they don't adapt. His gaze swept the room, lingering briefly on Charlotte's table, and she felt a jolt when their eyes met. Was he looking at her? No, probably just scanning the crowd. The moderator pressed further, and Nathan's responses grew more animated, his hands gesturing as he described a future where AI could optimize urban energy grids or predict climate patterns. Charlotte, who barely understood tech jargon, found herself captivated not by the words, but by the fire in his voice. This wasn't the frail guy she'd pegged as a corporate prop. This was someone who believed in something bigger. As the panel wrapped up, the audience erupted in applause, louder for Nathan than for the others. Charlotte clapped too, her palms stinging, a grin tugging at her lips. "Well, damn," she muttered, earning a confused glance from Trevor. She ignored him, watching Nathan return to his table, his expression back to its usual guarded calm. The whispers had shifted. Didn't expect that from Carter? Maybe he's not just a name. And Charlotte felt a flicker of pride, like she'd known all along he had it in him. Emma slid into the empty chair beside her, her eyes wide. "Okay, Char, your boy just stole the show. Did you know he was that smart?" "He's not my boy," Charlotte said, but her cheeks warmed. "And no, I didn't. He barely talked about work at our table." Emma smirked, sipping her champagne. "He's got layers. You should dig deeper in the next round, unless you're sticking with yacht guy over here." Charlotte glanced at Trevor, who was now checking his phone under the table. "Pass. He's probably married to his boat." As the blind date rounds resumed, Charlotte found herself distracted, stealing glances at Nathan's table. Her new match was a forgettable lawyer who kept name-dropping his firm, but her mind was on Nathan's panel performance. She wanted to tell him he'd killed it, maybe tease him about hiding his brainiac side. But the rumors about his health still nagged at her, making her hesitate. What if he was pushing himself too hard? She'd seen her dad do that once, working through pneumonia until he collapsed. The thought made her chest tighten. During a break, Charlotte wandered to the desert station, hoping to snag something more substantial than the earlier courses. The table was a work of art macarons, stacked like pastel pyramids, chocolate truffles, dusted with gold leaf, but nothing looked like it would fill the hole in her stomach. She grabbed a macaron, biting into it and grimacing at the overly sweet lavender flavor. "Should have kept my sandwich," she muttered. Emma appeared at her side, holding a plate of truffles. "Char, you're moping. What's up?" "I'm not moping," Charlotte said, brushing crumbs off her dress. "Just, Nathan surprised me, that's all. He's not what I thought." Emma's eyes sparkled. "Told you he's cute. And now you know he's a genius. Go talk to him. He's busy," Charlotte said, glancing at Nathan's table, where Claire was leaning in, her hand on his arm. A prickle of annoyance shot through her. "Besides, I don't even know if he's into me. And those rumors about him being sick, what if it's true?" Emma rolled her eyes. "Rumors are just gossip with extra spice. You won't know unless you ask. Or, you know, flirt a little," Charlotte snorted. "Flirt. I'd probably spill something on him first." As they talked, Charlotte noticed Nathan extricating himself from Claire and heading toward the bar. He looked tired again, his shoulders slumped, clutching another glass of water. Her sympathy flared, and before she could overthink it, she grabbed a napkin from the desert table and scribbled a quick note. "You crushed that panel. Bet you'd crush a burger too." "See?" She folded it tightly, then hesitated. This was stupid. He'd probably think she was weird. But Emma, sensing her indecision, snatched the napkin. "I'm delivering this. No backing out." Before Charlotte could protest, Emma marched over to Nathan, slipping the note into his hand with a conspiratorial wink. Nathan glanced at it, then at Charlotte, his lips curving into a small, surprised smile. He tucked the note into his pocket, and Charlotte's heart did a little flip, back at her table. Charlotte's phone buzzed with a text from Emma. "You're welcome. Now make a move." She started typing a reply. "He's nice, but I'm not sticking around if he's gonna collapse." But paused when she noticed Ethan, Nathan's colleague, watching her from a nearby table. His smirk made her uneasy, like he knew something she didn't. She hit send anyway, unaware that Ethan had caught another glimpse of her screen, his grin widening as he filed the information away. The next course arrived, a delicate quail egg. Something or other on. Charlotte poked at it, her appetite gone. Nathan's panel performance had shifted something in her. He wasn't just the frail Carter heir. He was interesting, maybe even worth another conversation. But as she glanced at him across the room, now talking to another match, she couldn't shake the feeling that he was holding something back about his health, his family, or maybe both. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom glowed with a warm, amber light, the chandeliers casting intricate patterns across the white linen tablecloths. The air buzzed with the clatter of silverware and the low hum of conversation, punctuated by bursts of laughter from the Elite Connections matchmaking event's well-heeled attendees. Charlotte Brooks sat at table 12 now, her third blind date of the night, picking at a plate of sous vide duck breast that was more art than food. Her green dress clung to her uncomfortably, a bead of sweat trickling down her back as she tried to focus on her new matcha tech entrepreneur named Ryan, who kept using words like synergy and disrupt. But her mind was elsewhere, replaying Nathan Carter's panel performance from earlier. The way he'd commanded the room, his quiet confidence cutting through the skepticism, had thrown her off. He wasn't the fragile pushover she'd assumed, and that note she'd slipped him, "You crushed that panel. Bet you'd crush a burger too," was starting to feel embarrassingly bold. Across the room, Nathan sat at another table, his pale hands folded neatly in front of him, nodding politely. At his current match, a woman in a sequined dress who was talking animatedly about her art gallery. He looked tired again, his shoulders slightly hunched, a glass of water his only companion. Charlotte caught herself staring and quickly looked away, her fork scraping against her plate. She shouldn't care this much about a guy she'd just met, especially one who might be hiding a serious illness. Those whispers heir, always in and out of hospitals, kept circling in her head like vultures. "Charlotte, you with me?" Ryan's voice snapped her back to the present. He leaned forward, his gelled hair catching the light. "I was saying, my startup's about to go Series B. Do you ever think about investing?" Charlotte blinked, forcing a smile. I'm more of a spend my paycheck on groceries kind of girl. Investing's not really my thing." Ryan laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that felt like a pat on the head. "Cute, you're a chef, right? That's quaint. Ever think about scaling up? Like a food truck empire or something?" She resisted the urge to roll her eyes. "I like my diner. Small's good, keeps things real." He shrugged, already checking his phone under the table. Charlotte's gaze drifted back to Nathan, who was now extricating himself from his match and heading toward the bar. Claire Donovan, the crimson-dressed CEO, was hot on his heels, her smile predatory as she leaned in to say something. Charlotte's stomach twisted, not jealousy, she told herself, just irritation at Claire's blatant opportunism. She grabbed her phone and texted Emma, who was at a table nearby. "Claire's all over Nathan. She's like a shark in heels." Emma's reply came instantly. "Ignore her. Focus on your boy. He's into you, I can tell." Charlotte snorted, typing back, "He's not my boy, and he's probably too sick to be into anyone. I'm just here for the food." She hit send, unaware that Ethan, Nathan's smarmy colleague, was at the next table, his eyes catching her screen again. Ethan's smirk widened, and he leaned over to his date, whispering something that made her giggle. The event's host announced a brief intermission, and Charlotte seized the chance to escape Ryan's startup spiel. She slipped away to the dessert station, where a spread of chocolate tarts and fruit sorbets glistened under the lights. She grabbed a tart, the rich cocoa sent a small comfort, and scanned the room for Emma. Instead, she spotted Claire cornering Nathan by the bar, her hand brushing his arm as she laughed at something he said. Nathan's expression was polite but distant, his fingers tightening around his water glass. Emma appeared at Charlotte's side, her black dress shimmering as she stole a bite of the tart. "Char, you're glaring. What's up?" "I'm not glaring," Charlotte said, shoving the rest of the tart in her mouth. "Claire's just, she's trying to sink her claws into Nathan, and he's letting her." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Letting her? He looks like he's counting the seconds until he can bolt. Why do you care? Anyway, thought you were just surviving this thing." Charlotte hesitated, her fingers crumbling the napkin in her hand. "I don't know. He's different. That panel thing. He was brilliant, but everyone keeps whispering about how sick he is. I don't want to get attached to someone who's—" She trailed off, not wanting to say it out loud. Emma softened, touching her arm. "You're overthinking it. He's not dying, Char. Probably just stressed or something. Go talk to him. Claire's not your competition." "Competition," Charlotte scoffed, but her cheeks flushed. "I'm not competing for anyone." "Sure you're not," Emma said, smirking. "Just go say hi. You already sent him that cute note. Keep the vibe going." Before Charlotte could argue, the host's voice cut through the room, calling everyone back to their tables for the next round. Charlotte's new match was a lawyer named Greg, who launched into a monologue about his firm's latest merger. She nodded absently, her eyes drifting to Nathan, who was now back at his table, looking even paler under the lights. Claire had rejoined her own match, but kept glancing at Nathan, her smile calculated. Halfway through Greg's spiel, disaster struck. A waiter, balancing a tray of wine glasses, tripped near Charlotte's table, and a cascade of red wine splashed across her lap. She yelped, jumping up as the cold liquid soaked through her dress. The room went quiet for a split second, all eyes on her, before the chatter resumed. Greg stared, horrified, as if she'd ruined his night. "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." The waiter stammered, grabbing napkins. "Let me get you a towel." "It's fine," Charlotte said, her face burning as she dabbed at the stain. "Just great timing, huh?" Emma rushed over, her eyes wide. "Char, you okay? That dress was your best one." "It was on clearance," Charlotte muttered, trying to laugh it off. "Figures I'd make a mess in a place like this." To her surprise, Nathan appeared at her side, holding a stack of napkins. "Here," he said, his voice calm. "Club soda works better. Trust me, I've spilled enough coffee on myself to know." Charlotte took the napkins, their fingers brushing briefly. "Thanks," she said, meeting his eyes. Up close, he looked less frail, his hazel gaze steady despite the faint shadows under his eyes. "You didn't have to come over. I'm already the night's entertainment." He smiled, a small, genuine curve of his lips. "You're handling it better than I would. I'd probably hide in the bathroom." She laughed, the tension easing. "Tempting, but I'd miss the next course. Gotta get my money's worth." The host's voice interrupted again, urging everyone to return to their seats. Nathan hesitated, then said, "Hang in there, Charlotte. You're doing better than most of us." He headed back to his table, leaving her with a flutter in her chest. She didn't want to analyze. As Charlotte sat, her dress now a damp mess. Greg resumed his merger talk, Oblivious to her discomfort, she tuned him out, her mind on Nathan's unexpected kindness. But then she noticed Ethan, Nathan's colleague, whispering to Claire at a nearby table, his eyes flicking toward her. Claire's laugh was sharp, and she shot Charlotte a look that felt like a blade. What was that about? After the round ended, Charlotte slipped to the restroom to salvage her dress. Splashing club soda on the stain and cursing under her breath, Emma joined her, leaning against the marble sink. Okay, spill. What's with you and Nathan? He ran over here like your knight in shining armor. He was just being nice, Charlotte said, scrubbing harder. Unlike Claire, who was probably plotting to buy his company or something. Emma grinned. Jealous much? Not jealous, Charlotte said, too quickly. Just, she's so fake. And I don't get why she's all over him. If he's coppin'. She stopped, not wanting to voice the rumors again. Emma sighed. Char, you're reading too much into gossip. But if you like him, do something about it. You're not some small-town nobody. You're Charlotte freaking Brooks, queen of comfort food. Charlotte managed to smile, but doubt gnawed at her. Nathan was smart, kind, maybe even charming, but what if those whispers were true? What if he was hiding something serious? And why did Claire's interest in him make her want to throw a dinner roll across the room? As they returned to the ballroom, Charlotte's phone buzzed with another text from Emma. Claire's trouble. Keep an eye on her. And FYI, Ethan's been snooping on your texts. Charlotte's stomach dropped. Her messages about Nathan calling him half-dead, joking about escaping weren't exactly discreet. Had Ethan told Claire, or worse, Nathan glanced at Nathan's table where he was now talking to another match, his expression unreadable. The night was far from over, but Charlotte felt like she'd already made a mess of things: her dress, her texts, and maybe even her chance with the one guy who didn't make her feel out of place in this glittering, suffocating world. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom pulsed with the energy of the Elite Connections matchmaking event. The air thick with the scent of roasted figs and expensive cologne. The chandeliers cast a golden glow over the round tables, where attendees, in designer suits and gowns, traded polished small talk. Charlotte Brooks stood near the dessert station, her green dress still damp from the wine spill, the faint stain, a badge of her earlier humiliation. Her denim jacket hung limply over her arm, and she clutched a glass of sparkling water, trying to shake the unease that had settled in her gut. Ethan's smirk, Claire's cutting glances, and her own careless texts about Nathan half-dead. Hope this wraps up soon were a recipe for disaster. She'd meant them as jokes. But if Ethan had shared them, she'd dug herself a hole she might not climb out of. Across the room, Nathan sat at a new table, his pale hands folded, listening to a woman in a sapphire dress who gestured wildly as she spoke. He looked tired, his hazel eyes shadowed, but there was a quiet strength in the way he nodded, his crooked tie a small rebellion against the room's perfection. Charlotte couldn't stop replaying his panel performance, his sharp intellect, the way he'd silenced the skeptics. He wasn't the frail heir everyone whispered about, and yet those whispers always sick. Not long for this world made her hesitant to get closer. Still, the memory of his smile when she'd passed him that note you crushed that panel. Bet you'd crush a burger too made her want to try. Emma Hayes appeared at her side, her black dress catching the light as she balanced a plate of petit fours. Char, you're brooding again, she said, popping a tiny cake into her mouth. What's the deal? You've been staring at Nathan like he's the last slice of pizza. Charlotte sighed, sipping her sparkling water. I'm not brooding, I'm just freaking out a little. Ethan saw my texts. The ones where I said Nathan looks half dead. If he tells him, I'm done for. Emma's eyes widened, but she waved a hand dismissively. Ethan's a jerk, but he's not gonna tattle. He's probably just stirring the pot for fun. Besides, Nathan likes you. I saw how he looked at you when he brought those napkins. He was being nice. Charlotte, said her voice low, and I'm not exactly his type. Did you see Claire all over him? She's like a corporate Barbie with a PhD. Emma snorted. Claire's fishing for a deal, not a date. You're real, Char. That's what he likes. You need to do something bold to keep his attention. Show him you're not just the clumsy chef who spills wine. Bold. Charlotte raised an eyebrow. Like what? Trip another waiter? Emma grinned, her eyes glinting with mischief. No, dummy. Something personal. You're a chef. Make him something. Sneak it past the event Nazis. He's stuck on water, right? Bet he's starving for something real. Charlotte hesitated, glancing at the dessert station. The idea was risky. The organizers were hawk-eyed about outside food, and she'd already lost her sandwich at check-in. But Nathan's comment about his mom's lasagna, the nostalgia in his voice, had stuck with her. Maybe she could pull it off. Okay, she said finally. But if I get kicked out, you're bailing me out. Deal? Emma said, shoving her toward the ballroom side exit. There's a staff kitchen down the hall. I saw it when I was snooping earlier. Go work your magic. Charlotte slipped out of the ballroom, her heart pounding as she navigated the hotel's labyrinthine corridors. The staff kitchen was a small, stainless steel haven tucked behind the main event space, filled with the clatter of pots and the scent of garlic. A lone cook, a young guy in a white uniform, looked up as she entered. Ah, you lost. he asked, wiping his hands on a towel. Sort of, Charlotte said, flashing a grin. I'm a chef. Need to borrow your kitchen for 10 minutes? Promise. I'll clean up. He raised an eyebrow but shrugged. Fine, but don't touch my mise en place. And if anyone asks, you're my cousin. Deal, Charlotte said, already scanning the counter. She found a loaf of sourdough, a stick of butter, some fresh herbs, and a small wedge of cheddar, humble ingredients, but enough for her plan. Working quickly, she sliced the bread, whipped up a quick herb butter, and grated the cheddar into a pan, creating a mini grilled cheese sandwich. Simple but perfect. She wrapped it in a napkin, tucking it into her jacket pocket, and slipped back into the ballroom. Just as the next round of blind dates began, her new match was a Bora, financial analyst who kept talking about crypto, but Charlotte's focus was on Nathan. Now at a table near the stage, she caught Emma's eye, who gave her a thumbs up and waited for the right moment. When the host announced another break, Charlotte made her move, weaving through the crowd until she reached Nathan's table. He was alone, scrolling on his phone, his water glass empty. Hey, she said, sliding into the chair across from him. You surviving? Nathan looked up, his lips curving into that small, disarming smile. Barely. These conversations are like endurance training. Charlotte laughed, her nerves easing. Tell me about it. My last guy tried to sell me on Bitcoin. You holding up okay? You look. She hesitated, not wanting to mention his pallor again. I'm fine, he said, his tone light but firm. Just pacing myself. What about you? That wine spill didn't ruin your night, did it? Nah, she said, grinning. Takes more than a little Merlot to take me down. She glanced around, making sure no organizers were watching, then leaned closer, lowering her voice. Okay, don't rat me out, but I made you something. You said you're on a water diet, but you gotta eat, right? Nathan's eyebrows shot up as she slid the napkin-wrapped grilled cheese across the table, keeping it low to avoid detection. What's this? He asked, unfolding the napkin. The warm, buttery scent hit him, and his eyes widened. You made this here? Snuck into the staff kitchen? She whispered, her grin mischievous. It's just grilled cheese. Nothing fancy, but it's better than that fairy food they're serving. Try it, unless your stomach's gonna hate me. Nathan stared at the sandwich, then at her, his expression softening. Your trouble? Charlotte Brooks. He took a small bite, chewing slowly, his eyes closing for a moment. Damn, that's really good. Charlotte beamed, her chest swelling with pride. Told you, stick with me, and you'll never go hungry. He chuckled, taking another bite. You're gonna get us both kicked out, you know? Worth it, she said, leaning back in her chair. For a moment, they just sat there, sharing a conspiratorial grin, the noise of the ballroom fading into the background. But then Claire Donovan appeared, her crimson dress like a warning signal, her smile tight as she eyed the sandwich. Nathan, you're eating, Claire said, her tone laced with surprise. I thought you were particular about your diet. Nathan's smile faded slightly, but he kept his cool. Charlotte's an exception, he said, glancing at her. She knows food. Claire's eyes flicked to Charlotte, her gaze cold. How quaint. Be careful, Nathan. You don't want to overdo it. She turned to Charlotte, her voice dripping with condescension. You're the chef, right? Stick to the kitchen, darling. This crowd's a bit out of your league. Jaw tightened, but before she could fire back, Nathan spoke, his voice calm but sharp. I think Charlotte's doing just fine. Better than most, actually. Claire's smile froze, and she excused herself with a curt nod, her heels clicking. As she walked away, Charlotte let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Wow, she's intense. She's always like that, Nathan said, finishing the sandwich. Don't let her get to you. She's just playing the game. What game? Charlotte asked. Curious. Nathan hesitated, his gaze dropping to the empty napkin. The one where everyone wants something from you. My family's company? It attracts people like her. Charlotte nodded, sensing the weight behind his words. Sounds exhausting. Do you ever just walk away from it? Sometimes I want to, he admitted, his voice quiet. But it's not that simple. Not when you're a Carter. Before she could ask more, the host's voice cut through, calling everyone back to their tables. Nathan stood, tucking the napkin into his pocket. Thanks for the sandwich. Charlotte, you're full of surprises. She grinned, her heart lighter. You're welcome. Don't faint on me. Okay, he laughed, heading to his next table. But Charlotte's smile faded as she caught Ethan watching them from across the room, his smirk sharper than ever. She had a sinking feeling her texts were, I'm about to come back to haunt her. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom felt like a gilded cage, its opulent glow from the chandeliers clashing with the undercurrent of tension that rippled through the crowd. The Elite Connections matchmaking event was in its final hour, and the air was heavy with the scent of espresso from the dessert course and the faint buzz of anticipation as attendees hoped to seal their matches. Charlotte Brooks leaned against a pillar near the edge of the room, her green dress still bearing the faint wine stain from earlier, her denim jacket slung over her arm like a security blanket. Her heart raced, not from the event's frenetic energy, but from the sinking realization that her careless texts joking about Nathan Carter being half dead and wanting to escape had likely been seen by Ethan, his smarmy colleague. The way Ethan kept smirking at her from across the room, whispering to his table mates, made her stomach churn worse than the time she'd tried to taste the rainbow with expired yogurt. Nathan sat at a table near the stage, his lean frame slightly hunched, sipping water as his latest matcha woman, in a velvet dress, chattered about her nonprofit. His hazel eyes flicked toward Charlotte briefly, and she felt a jolt, remembering the grilled cheese she'd snuck him earlier. His smile, then small, genuine, almost conspiratorial, had been a bright spot in this overwhelming night. But now, with Ethan's knowing glances and Claire Donovan's icy jabs, Charlotte feared she'd ruined whatever spark they'd had. She wasn't cut out for this world of polished power plays and whispered gossip. Back in Auburn, she'd be flipping burgers, not dodging social landmines. Emma Hayes appeared beside her, her black dress shimmering as she handed Charlotte a glass of sparkling water. "Char, you look like you're about to bolt," she said, her voice teasing but concerned. "What's wrong? You were all smug about that grilled cheese stunt, and now you're hiding by a pillar." Charlotte gripped the glass, her knuckles whitening. "Ethan saw my texts, Em, the ones where I said Nathan looks like he's gonna keel over. If he tells him, I'm screwed. He'll think I'm some heartless jerk." Emma's eyes widened, but she waved a hand. "Okay, first, breathe. Ethan's a gossip, not a supervillain, and Nathan's not the type to hold a grudge. Did you see how he shut Claire down earlier? He's got your back?" Charlotte shook her head, her damp dress clinging uncomfortably to her thighs. "He was just being polite, and Claire's still circling him like a vulture. She practically told me to stay in my lane." Emma snorted, stealing a macaron from a passing waiter's tray. "Claire's just mad you're stealing her spotlight. You need to fix this with Nathan. Go talk to him, before Ethan stirs up more drama." Before Charlotte could protest, the host's voice rang out, announcing a final mingling session before the event's closing remarks. The crowd shifted, tables emptying as people milled about, exchanging business cards and flirtatious smiles. Charlotte spotted Nathan near the bar, alone for once, his phone in hand. Her heart thudded. This was her chance to clear the uproar, at least not leave things worse than they were. She took a deep breath, straightened her shoulders, and marched over, dodging a waiter carrying a tray of Prosecco. Nathan looked up as she approached, his expression softening into that small, disarming smile. "Charlotte," he said, pocketing his phone, "you're not sneaking more food, are you?" She managed a weak grin, her nerves jangling. "Not this time. I need to talk to you about something kind of embarrassing." His eyebrows lifted, but his tone stayed light. "More embarrassing than the wine spill." "I'm intrigued." Charlotte glanced around, ensuring no one, especially Ethan or Claire, was in earshot. "Okay, so I might have sent some dumb texts to Emma about you, and someone might have seen them." She winced, rushing on. "I didn't mean anything bad. I swear. You looked tired, and there were these rumors about you being sick, and I made a stupid joke about you not making it through the night. I'm so sorry." Nathan's smile faded, his eyes narrowing slightly. "What kind of joke?" Charlotte's face burned, and she stared at her sneakers, wishing the marble floor would swallow her. "I said you looked half dead, and I hoped the event would wrap up soon. It was dumb. I wasn't thinking. I just heard all this gossip about you being like super sick, and I got worried but also freaked out." And she stopped, realizing she was rambling. "I'm sorry, really." For a moment, Nathan was silent, his expression unreadable. Then, to her surprise, he laughed a low, genuine chuckle that caught her off guard. "Half dead, huh? That's a new one." Charlotte blinked, her mouth dry. "You're not mad." He leaned against the bar, his posture relaxing. "Nah, I've heard worse. People talk a lot of crap about me. Comes with the last name." He paused, his gaze steady. "But the sick thing, it's just gastritis. Chronic, annoying, but not exactly a death sentence. I'm not planning to keel over before dessert." Relief flooded her, but guilt lingered. "I should have asked you instead of listening to gossip. I'm not usually this stupid." "You're not stupid," Nathan said, his voice softer. "You're honest. That's rare around here." He gestured at the room, where people like Claire were working the crowd like seasoned politicians. Most people would have just smiled and played along. "You owned up to it." Charlotte's cheeks warmed, and she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "Well, I'm not great at playing along. Back home, if you mess up, you just say sorry and make someone a pie." He smiled, his eyes crinkling. "I'd take a pie over this stuff any day." He nodded at a passing tray of caviar. "You gonna make me another grilled cheese to make up for the half-dead thing?" She laughed, the tension easing. "Only if you promise not to rat me out to the food police." "Deal," he said, his smile widening. But then his expression shifted, a flicker of hesitation crossing his face. "Look, Charlotte, I get why you'd think I'm a mess. My family's not exactly subtle about writing me off, but I'm not as fragile as they think. I've got plans and things I'm working on." She tilted her head, curious. "Plans like what? More AI stuff?" He hesitated, then shrugged. "Something like that. Let's just say I'm not here to play the good little heir forever." Before she could press further, Ethan appeared, his flashy suit gleaming under the lights, his smirk practically a neon sign. "Carter," he said, clapping Nathan on the shoulder. Didn't know you had it in you to charm the small-town girl. His eyes flicked to Charlotte, dripping with condescension. Nice move with the sandwich. By the way, real classy. Charlotte's jaw tightened, but Nathan's voice was cool as ice. Ethan, don't you have someone else to annoy? Ethan laughed, undeterred. Just looking out for you, man. Wouldn't want you wasting your time. He leaned closer, lowering his voice but not enough to keep Charlotte from hearing. Heard she's already planning her exit. Something about you not lasting the night? Charlotte's stomach dropped, her earlier relief evaporating. Nathan's gaze flicked to her, his expression unreadable again. That so? He said, his tone neutral. Ethan grinned, sensing blood in the water. Yeah, saw it on her phone. Tough break, Carter. He sauntered off, leaving a toxic cloud of smugness behind him. Charlotte's hands clenched, her nails digging into her palms. Nathan. He held up a hand, stopping her. It's fine. Like I said, I've heard worse. But his smile was gone, and there was a distance in his eyes that hadn't been there before. Let's just enjoy the rest of the night. Okay, she nodded, her throat tight, but the moment felt fractured. As Nathan returned to his table, Charlotte spotted Emma waving her over, her face a mix of excitement and concern. Char, what the hell just happened? Ethan's such a snake. I messed up, Charlotte said, her voice low. He saw my texts, and now Nathan thinks I'm some jerk who's laughing at him? Emma grabbed her arm, pulling her toward a quiet corner. Then fix it. You like him, don't you? I saw how you lit up when he ate your sandwich. I don't know, Charlotte admitted, her heart a jumble. He's different, not what I expected. But what if he thinks I'm just some small... Nobody now. Emma rolled her eyes. You're not a nobody. You're Charlotte Brooks, queen of comfort food. And Nathan's not dumb, he knows you're not like Claire or Ethan. Do something big. Show him you're in this. Charlotte glanced at Nathan, now back at his table, his expression guarded again. She wanted to fix this, to show him she wasn't the person Ethan made her out to be. An idea sparked, risky but bold. Okay, she said, her resolve hardening. I need your help. Let's get out of here for a bit. There's a food truck in Brooklyn I know. If I can't bring him real food here, I'll take him to it. Emma's grin was electric. That's my girl. Let's sneak you out before the organizers notice. As they plotted their escape, Charlotte's mind raced. She didn't know if Nathan would even go along with it, but she had to try. Ethan's words had stung, and Claire's hovering presence was a reminder of how out of place she felt. But Nathan's laugh, his quiet strength, made her want to take a chance on him. On this night, on something real. The night air in Brooklyn was cool and sharp, carrying the faint tang of fried onions from a nearby food truck parked under the glow of a street lamp. Charlotte Brooks stood by the truck's open window, her denim jacket pulled tight against the late summer breeze, her green dress still faintly stained with wine from the Grand Meridian Hotel's earlier fiasco. The Elite Connections matchmaking event felt a world away, its chandeliers and polished chatter replaced by the gritty charm of a Brooklyn street corner, where neon signs buzzed and passersby laughed over greasy paper bags. Charlotte clutched a foil container of loaded fries, cheese, bacon, a drizzle of her favorite spicy mayo, her heart racing as she glanced at Nathan Carter beside her. His tailored suit looked out of place against the food truck's graffiti-covered exterior, but his crooked tie and the faint smile on his lips made him seem almost at home. Getting Nathan out of the hotel had been a feat. Emma had distracted the organizers with a fake spilled drink emergency, giving Charlotte just enough time to convince him to sneak out for real food. He'd hesitated, his hazel eyes wary, but the promise of something other than water and tiny canapes had won him over. Now, as they stood under the flickering streetlight, sharing fries from a shared container, Charlotte felt a flicker of hope that she'd salvaged the night after Ethan's betrayal with her texts. These are incredible, Nathan said, popping a fry into his mouth, the cheese stretching in a satisfying string. You weren't kidding about real food, Charlotte grinned, licking mayo off her thumb. Told you, this truck's my secret weapon when I visit the city, beats those ferry portions back at the hotel. He chuckled, leaning against the truck's side, his pale fingers glistening with grease. You're gonna ruin me for five-star dining, Charlotte Brooks. That's the plan, she said, her voice light but her chest tight. The confrontation with Ethan still stung his smug reveal of her texts. Calling Nathan half-dead had nearly derailed everything. Nathan's forgiveness had been a relief, but the distance in his eyes afterward lingered. She wanted to keep this moment, this easy connection. But the weight of the event and its expectations loomed. Their escape hadn't gone unnoticed. Back at the Grand Meridian, the ballroom was abuzz with whispers as the final mingling session wound down. Emma, back at her table, texted Charlotte. Organizers are pissed you two ditched. Claire sniffing around, asking where Nathan went. Stay low. Charlotte glanced at her phone, then tucked it away. Not wanting to break the spell of this stolen moment, Nathan wiped his hands on a napkin, his expression thoughtful. You know, I haven't done something like this in forever. Sneaking out, eating street food. My family would lose it if they saw me now. Charlotte tilted her head, curious. Your family sounds intense. What's their deal? They really push you to do these events. He sighed, his gaze drifting to the street, where a group of college kids laughed over tacos. Yeah, my dad's the CEO of Carter Tech, and he's got this idea that I need to represent the brand. Marry well, network, all that. They think I'm unreliable because of my health. He tapped his stomach lightly. Gastritis. It's manageable, but they act like I'm one bad day away from keeling over. Charlotte's heart twinged, guilt creeping back. I'm sorry about those texts. I shouldn't have listened to the gossip. He waved a hand, his smile faint but genuine. Forget it. You're not the first to think I'm fragile. My family's been saying it for years. Makes it easier to fly under the radar, though under the radar, she asked, popping another fry. You didn't seem like you were hiding on that panel. You owned it. His eyes lit up, a spark of pride breaking through his usual reserve. Thanks, I've been working on that project for years. Sustainable AI. My dad thinks it's a pipe dream, but I know it's the future. I just need to prove it. Charlotte nodded, impressed. You sound like you've got big plans. Why do they underestimate you? He shrugged, his expression tightening. Long story. Let's just say I'm not the golden child. My older brother's the one they bet on. I'm the backup plan. She frowned, sensing the weight behind his words. That's rough. Back home, my family's just happy if I don't burn the diner down. No pressure to be a corporate superstar. Nathan laughed, the sound warm in the cool night air. Sounds nice. Maybe I'll visit Auburn someday. Get that burger you keep promising. Deal, she said, grinning. But only if you survive. This night without your family dragging you back. As if on cue, Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, his face clouding. Speak of the devil, he muttered, showing her a text from someone labeled Dad. Where are you? You're embarrassing us. Get back to the event now. Charlotte winced. Yikes, you in trouble? Always, he said, but his tone was more resigned than worried. He typed a quick reply, stepped out for air, be back soon, and pocketed the phone. They'll live. I'm not their puppet tonight. Charlotte admired his defiance but couldn't shake her own unease. Back at the hotel, the event was wrapping up, and the organizers were ushering attendees toward a final networking session. Emma, still playing lookout, texted again. Claire's talking to Nathan's dad. Looks cozy. Watch your back. Charlotte's stomach twisted. Claire Donovan, with her calculated charm and crimson dress, was a problem she hadn't anticipated. When they returned to the Grand Meridian, slipping through a side entrance to avoid the organizer's wrath, the ballroom was a hive of activity. Claire was indeed with Nathan's father, a stern man in a charcoal suit, his silver hair slicked back, his presence commanding the room. He was nodding as Claire spoke, her gestures animated, her smile too perfect. Charlotte caught snippets. Nathan's potential, strategic alliance, and her irritation flared. Claire wasn't just after Nathan's attention, she was pitching herself to his family. Nathan noticed too, his jaw tightening. Here we go, he muttered, steering Charlotte toward a quieter corner. Claire's been trying to get in with Carter Tech for months. She sees me as an easy way in. Charlotte frowned, crossing her arms. She's got some nerve. What's her deal, trying to buy you or something? He smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. Pretty much, her company's looking for a merger. My dad's eating it up because he thinks I need guidance. Charlotte's heart sank. Guidance. You're smarter than half the people in this room. Why do they treat you like that? Nathan hesitated, his gaze dropping to the floor. It's complicated. They think I'm too soft, too sick to handle the big stuff. I let them believe it. Keeps the pressure off while I work on my own projects. She tilted her head, intrigued. Your own projects, like what? He opened his mouth to answer, but a shadow fell over them. Nathan's father, Mr. Carter, stood there, his expression a mix of disapproval and impatience. Nathan, he said, his voice low but sharp. Care to explain why you left the event? And who's this? His eyes flicked to Charlotte, taking in her stained dress and denim jacket with a barely concealed sneer. Charlotte bristled but held her tongue. Nathan straightened, his voice calm but firm. This is Charlotte Brooks. We stepped out for a bit, needed a break. Mr. Carter's eyes narrowed. A break. You're here to represent Carter Tech, not to galavant with. He gestured vaguely at Charlotte, as if she were an afterthought. She's a chef, Nathan said, his tone sharper now, and she's more real than most of the people here. Charlotte's cheeks flushed, a mix of embarrassment and gratitude. Mr. Carter's lips pressed into a thin line. But before he could respond, Claire approached, her smile radiant. Mr. Carter, I was just telling you about our potential partnership. Nathan's insights on the panel were impressive, but I think he'd benefit from a more seasoned perspective. Charlotte's hands clenched, her nails digging into her palms. Nathan's expression remained neutral, but she saw the tension in his shoulders. Thanks, Claire, he said, his voice cool. I'll manage. As Mr. Carter and Claire walked away, Charlotte let out a breath. Your dad's intense, and Claire's not helping. Nathan rubbed his neck, his smile wry. Welcome to my life. But don't worry about it. Let's just get through this. Back at her table, Charlotte's phone buzzed with a new message from Emma, but from an unknown number. Heard you got a job offer at Le Bistro. Congrats. Stick to cooking, small-town girl. See, Charlotte's blood ran cold. Claire, how did she know about the job offer? Charlotte had received that morning a sous chef position at a trendy Manhattan restaurant. She hadn't told anyone but Emma. "Everything okay?" Nathan asked, noticing her expression. She forced a smile, tucking her phone away. "Yeah, just drama. You ever think about running away from all this?" He laughed softly, his eyes meeting hers. "Every day. But I've got something to prove first." As the event's closing remarks began, Charlotte felt a mix of determination and dread. She liked Nathan more than she wanted to admit, but the pressures of his world, from his family to vipers like Claire, were suffocating. And now, with a job offer on the table, she had to decide. Stay in New York and fight for a place in this glittering chaos, or go back to Auburn, where life was simple but small. The Grand Meridian Hotel's ballroom shimmered with a final burst of elegance as the Elite Connections matchmaking event drew to its close. The chandeliers cast a warm golden light over the polished tables, now cleared of their delicate dishes. While the jazz quartet played a soft, wistful tune that signaled the night's end, Charlotte Brooks stood near the ballroom's grand exit, her green dress still bearing the faint wine stain from hours earlier, her denim jacket slung over her shoulder. The air was thick with the scent of lingering perfume and espresso, but her mind was elsewhere, reeling from the whirlwind of the night. From Nathan Carter's quiet strength to the venom of Claire Donovan's schemes and the weight of her own decisions. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a reminder of the job offer from Le Bistro, a prestigious Manhattan restaurant that could change her life. Yet, as she watched Nathan across the room, his lean frame silhouetted against the stage, she felt a pull, stronger than ambition. Nathan was surrounded by a small crowd, his father, the stern Mr. Carter, Claire Donovan, in her crimson dress, and a few Carter Tech executives, their faces a mix of curiosity and skepticism. The whispers that had dogged him all night, frail heir, unreliable, just a name, seemed louder now. But Nathan's posture was different. His shoulders were squared, his hazel eyes sharp, as if he'd shed the weight of others' expectations. Charlotte's heart thudded. After their Brooklyn food truck escape, where they'd shared loaded fries and laughter, she'd seen a side of him that felt real, unguarded. But his world, his family, Claire's machinations, the corporate chess game was a labyrinth she wasn't sure she could navigate. Emma Hayes appeared at her side, her black dress slightly rumpled from her night of scheming and socializing. "Char, you're staring again," she teased, nudging her. "What's the plan? You gonna make a move? Or are you just gonna mope until we're back in Auburn?" Charlotte sighed, her fingers twisting the strap of her jacket. "I don't know. Nathan's amazing, but his family's a nightmare, and Claire's out here playing Game of Thrones. Plus, that job offer Le Bistro's huge, but it means staying in New York, diving into this craziness." Emma's eyes softened. "You're scared, aren't you? Not just of the job, but of him." Charlotte nodded, her throat tight. "What if I don't fit in his world? I'm a diner chef, not a corporate wife. And after those texts Ethan spilled, I'm lucky he's still talking to me." Emma grabbed her shoulders, her gaze fierce. "Listen to me, Charlotte Brooks. You're not just a diner chef. You're a badass who snuck a grilled cheese into a 5-star hotel and got Nathan Carter to ditch his own event for a food truck. You fit wherever you decide to fit, and Nathan, he's crazy about you. I saw it when he ate your sandwich, when he stood up to Claire. Don't let his family or some job offer make you run." Charlotte managed a small smile, her resolve flickering. "When did you get so wise?" "Always been wise," Emma said, winking. "Now go talk to him before Claire tries to propose a merger and a marriage in one breath." Across the room, Nathan extricated himself from the group, his father's scowl following him as he headed toward the bar. Charlotte took a deep breath, her sneakers scuffing the marble floor as she followed. The crowd parted slightly, their whispers trailing her. "Who's she?" "Not one of us," but she ignored them, focusing on Nathan's crooked tie and the way his hand gripped his water glass like a lifeline. "Hey," she said, sliding up beside him. "You surviving the corporate firing squad?" Nathan turned his smile, instant but tired. "Barely. My dad's not thrilled about our little field trip to Brooklyn, thinks I'm undermining the family image." Charlotte winced. "Sorry, didn't mean to get you in trouble." He waved a hand, his eyes crinkling. "Worth it. Those fries were better than anything here. And the company wasn't bad either." Her cheeks warmed, and she leaned against the bar, her jacket brushing his arm. "Glad I could corrupt you with street food, but you okay?" Your dad looked ready to ground you. Nathan's smile faded, his gaze dropping to his glass. "He's always like that, thinks I'm a liability because I don't play by his rules. But I'm done letting him call the shots." Charlotte tilted her head, curious. "What do you mean, you going rogue?" He hesitated, then met her eyes. A spark of determination in his. "Something like that? I've been working on a project, sustainable AI, like I mentioned. It's ready to launch, but my dad's been stonewalling it. Tonight, I told him I'm taking it to the board myself. Either they back me, or I walk." Charlotte's eyes widened. "Walk?" Like Leaf Cutter. He nodded, his voice steady. "If I have to, I'm not just the sick kid they prop up for photo ops. I know what I'm capable of, and I'm done proving it to them." Her heart swelled with admiration, but worry crept in. "That's huge, Nathan. But what if they don't?" "Listen, then I start over," he said, his jaw tight. I've got enough saved, enough contacts. I'd rather build something real than stay in their shadow. Before she could respond, Mr. Carter approached, his presence like a storm cloud. "Nathan," he said, his voice low but cutting, "we need to discuss your behavior tonight, and, your choice of company." His eyes flicked to Charlotte, dismissive. Charlotte's temper flared, but Nathan stepped forward, his voice calm but unyielding. "Dad, I'm done discussing. I'm presenting my project to the board next week. You can support it or not, but I'm moving forward, and Charlotte's not your concern." Mr. Carter's face darkened, but before he could retort, Claire Donovan joined them, her smile sharp as a blade. "Nathan, your father and I were just discussing a potential partnership with Donovan Ventures. It could stabilize Carter Tech's future and yours." Nathan's eyes narrowed. "I don't need stabilizing, Claire, and I'm not interested in your deal." Claire's smile didn't waver, but her gaze flicked to Charlotte. "I see. Well, don't let distractions derail your potential." She glided away, her heels clicking, leaving a chill in her wake. Mr. Carter stared at Nathan, then turned and walked off without another word. Charlotte let out a breath. "Wow, you just went full rebel." Nathan rubbed his neck, his smile wry. "Yeah, well, it's been a long time coming. Thanks for sticking around." "Charlotte, most people would have bailed by now." She shrugged, her heart racing. "I'm stubborn. And you're not as boring as I thought." He laughed, the sound warm and unguarded. High praise. "So, what's next for you? You sticking around New York, or heading back to Auburn?" Charlotte hesitated, the job offer weighing on her. "I got an offer from Le Bistro, sous chef. It's big, but I don't know if I'm ready for this city. It's a lot." Nathan's gaze softened. "You'd kill it. Charlotte, you've got something relured, food, your heart. New York's tough, but it needs people like you." Her throat tightened, and she looked away, the city's skyline visible through the ballroom's windows. "Maybe, but what about you? You really gonna take on your family?" He nodded, his voice quiet but firm. "Yeah, and? I'm taking the CEO role. I didn't tell my dad yet, but I've been working with the board behind the scenes. They're ready to back me. By next week, Carter Tech's mine." Charlotte's jaw dropped, a grin spreading across her face. "CEO Nathan, that's holy crap, you're a freaking millionaire boss." He laughed, a blush creeping up his pale cheeks. "Not quite how I'd put it, but yeah, surprise, I guess." She punched his arm lightly, her eyes sparkling. "You hid that well, Carter. Here, I was thinking you were just a nerd with a bad stomach." "Still a nerd," he said, grinning, "just one with a plan." The host's voice cut through, announcing the event's end, and the crowd began to disperse. Charlotte glanced at Nathan, a bold idea forming. "Hey, you free tomorrow? There's a farmer's market in Union Square. I could show you how to make a real apple pie, unless CEOs are too fancy for that." Nathan's smile widened, his eyes locking with hers. "I'm in, but only if you promise not to text Emma about me fainting." She laughed, her heart lighter than it had been all night. "Deal. Let's get out of here before your dad sends a search party." They slipped out of the ballroom, weaving through the crowd, the city's pulse waiting beyond the hotel's doors. As they stepped into the cool Manhattan night, Charlotte felt a spark of possibility, not just for her, but for them. Nathan, the unexpected CEO, and her, the small-town chef, were just beginning to write their story. One pie, one laugh, one real moment at a time. Loved this story? Give it a like and subscribe to our channel for more lighthearted, feel-good romances. Share this video with friends who adore funny and heartwarming stories. In the comments, drop a score from 0 to 10 for Charlotte and Nathan's journey, and pick an emoji that captures what this story means to you. Let's spread the love. Hit that share button,